very much. I'm Jane. I am founder and chief executive of Purple Cubed and also our sister company WellBee. WellBee is a wellbeing tool to help you self-assess your own wellbeing and get some help. And Purple Cubed works in consulting around being a great place to work and leadership. And also we have 3/4 of our businesses around software in terms of employee engagement, career progression, planning, talent management, so on and so forth. I also write and do a whole load of other things that are on my LinkedIn if you're not interested to know.
It's there to be seen.
Oh, yeah.
So today we're going to talk about the idea of looking after yourself, and already I feel like you're potentially the ideal person to be having this conversation with your wellbeing app. I like that. I may have to get on board with that and take a little look and see what it's all about. So I guess we can dive right in, to be honest with you, and let's think about this. So if we're going to be thinking about how to get the best from ourselves and how to look after ourselves and really kind of give ourselves the best opportunity of being successful, are there any tools available out there for me to help understand what my core skills are?
Yeah, I think there are a few things. And the first one I'm going to talk about is actually a values tool. So before we get onto the actual skills stuff, this is about the what drives me, what motivates me, my innermost drivers and wants and desires, if you like. And there is a free tool which I can send you a link to put on the end of the video.
That'd be amazing.
Values, which is on one of our websites, which is all about working out what your personal values are, i.e. what are the things that are the deal breakers that you must have at work. And then what are the next lot of things that are, important, but not a deal breaker? And then what are some other kind of nice to haves? Because sometimes it's a very long list and people get confused about what the deal breakers are. So for instance, if you're in a job and your top 5 values, you're not getting any of them fulfilled, you will be unhappy, demotivated, disengaged, and you want to leave. If you're in that job and maybe you get the top 5, but you don't get the next 5, you can last a lot longer because you can build up onto those. So I think I would always start with your own personal values, because once you know what they are, then you can go and find, hopefully, a job in an environment where those values are also important. And you can go on people's websites. You can tell on companies' websites what their values are. Some of them state it, or some of them you will just get a feeling. So it might be things like, wanting people to be enabled and empowered to do their jobs, or it might be about having a lot of control. So if you are a person who likes a lot of process and likes to be in an environment where someone's telling you what to do, then go and work in an environment where control is an important value. But don't do that if you're an entrepreneurial spirit and you want to go and do your own thing, because it's not going to work. That's a simple example. So start with your values, because I believe that actually it's less about the job you do and the more environment you do it in. You've got to do things you at least like, if not love. But I think it's easier to do something you might not love at the moment, but in the right environment. And then from skills points of view, I think if you're in a job, then look at your job description and look at whatever the performance criteria are for whatever it is you're supposed to be doing, and measure yourself against whether you're doing a good job or not. Good companies have got software in place that enable people to do that kind of self-assessment, not just for the well-being, but also for their own performance. So someone's not telling you how you're doing, you're kind of telling yourself and telling them. But if it's just a general one, I think just write down the things you love doing and the things you really enjoy, and maybe the things you were good at school or you're good at in your personal life, and see if you can relate that. So if you are, chair of your local church finance committee or something, you're probably pretty good at numbers. So there's a skill. And simple example again, but just think about what would each of the things that you do in your other parts of your life, how will that translate to work? Because you've all got loads of skills, but I used to work in recruitment a few years ago, and people used to go, oh, well, I don't really know how to do anything. And then I say, well, okay, what do you do when you're not at work then? And they go, well, I do this and I do that, and I've got 4 children and I do that. Okay, so what have you got from that then? You've got organisational skills, you're able to work under pressure, you're able to negotiate, all of those things. So just relate it to the other parts of your life and believe that you've got more than you have, because you have.
I love that. And I think it's a really valuable idea of being able to look at what you do in your personal life. And I think potentially what a lot of job seekers do is kind of think, right, okay, what can I do from a job perspective, rather than actually how do I spend my day? So as you say, if you've got 4 kids, there's got to be some organization involved somewhere. Certainly some negotiation skills, undoubtedly. All of those things will carry across. So really doing that kind of deep dive into you as an individual, and don't necessarily think about it from a job perspective, but kind of how you, as you say, how you spend your time and what you do with those.
I think most good employers today would recruit on attitude and train for skills. So, if you turn up and you're smiley and you're helpful and you're kind and you really listen and you do what you say you're going to do and deliver everything, then they would much rather have that than someone who's super technically skilled, because you can put the technical skills there. It's really hard to put the attitudinal ones there. So I think, when people go, what are you good at? I would be listing attitudinal things rather than, I can
technical,
make a fantastic souffle or whatever. Great if you can, but if you can do it with a smile and help your mate on the next bench while you're doing it, then that's got to be better.
Undoubtedly. And again, I think it comes down to seeing the value in those things, isn't it? I mean, the attitudinal stuff is absolutely key, certainly within hospitality. You could be the best person technically at any job, but if you are not a team player, if you're not kind of willing to listen, you're not willing to engage, then you could potentially just become grit in the works.
Yeah, absolutely. And who wants that? So yes, you are skilled. Just write them down. Think about them. Or if you're not sure or you haven't got confidence, go and ask somebody who likes you, what do you think I'm good at? And they'll tell you loads of things and you'll think, really? It's like, yeah, you are. Write them down and keep reminding yourself.
Nice. I love that. Making lists. I'm a big fan of making a list. It's the only way that my life works, to be honest with you. Otherwise I'm lost. But yeah, finding that person who's willing to kind of give you that feedback and give you that information and really just taking it seriously. I think it's really easy to kind of to blush and to be like, oh, okay, and look uncomfortable, but take the compliment and trust the fact that it's genuine and it's real, and think about how you're going to be able to implement that in your job search. Amazing. Yeah, I really like that. Well, so that leads me into my next one, where I start to think about kind of how am I going to build my confidence? So maybe I'm in work, maybe I've started a new job, maybe I'm kind of going through the process of interviewing and applying for jobs. What steps can I take to build my confidence up?
Yeah, confidence is an interesting one, and it's really pertinent now where people have been either furloughed or working at home or isolated in some way. So we know from years and years of doing this stuff that when people go off, say, on maternity leave, and they might have 6 months off or a year off or however long it is, when they come back, even the strongest woman, or maybe a man if they're taking paternity leave, even the strongest of us come back feeling not so confident. It just does that. Just taking any elongated period of time away from the workplace knocks your confidence, because you lose control over what's happening. You lose the ability to know all of the communication stuff. Even however good your employer is, when you're off, they don't want to be inundating you with stuff. Mm-hmm. So you miss out. So as soon as you get back in, people are talking about things that you don't know about, and they're doing things in a different way, and all of that knocks your confidence. So the first thing to realize is it is normal to not feel so confident. If you're thinking, I don't feel as confident as I did, what has happened to me? It's because it's a normal reaction to the fact you've not been there doing what you do every day, day in, day out. So one, don't beat yourself up for that. Two, I think, is just about taking it in small chunks. So don't think, I'm not very confident today, but I'm going to rush and do everything, and next week I'll be super confident again. Mm-hmm. It's like resilience. It's like muscles. You're building them up all the time. So I think just work on your confidence. And I always think there's this thing which is a bit girly maybe, but I call it inner cheerleaders. So imagine you've got your inner cheerleaders sitting on your shoulders, and every time you do something good, they go, yay, because you don't, people without confidence are not kind of saying it to themselves. So you've almost got to externalize it and say, if I had someone sitting there watching me do that, would they be going, yay, look at what you did? Because you almost need that voice.
Yep.
To keep even the little things. And if you can, at the end of every day, write down, maybe, or stick it in your phone or whatever, write down one thing that you're proud of today, or one thing you did well. There will be at least one. There will be. I mean, there's bound to be. Whatever it is, even if you sat still all day and didn't move, it's still an achievement, whatever it is. And I think just kind of be kind to yourself and reward yourself, because you might not constantly get loads of praise or feedback from your boss or your colleagues, because everybody's running around at the moment in a whole new world, as we know. So you've kind of got to do it yourself, find a way to do it yourself, really. So I think that's just one of those things. But also confidence is around feeling well. So I think if you are not sleeping, drinking loads, eating rubbish, not exercising at all of those things, none of that might appeal to you, but there's probably something you can do just to look after your own physical well-being.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're tired, it's hard to feel confident, I think, if you're worn out and feeling lethargic. So think of how you could just maybe do a tiny thing once a month or something, or once a week, just to improve your physical health. So if you're in tip-top condition, or as well as you can be right now, you're probably going to feel more confident.
I love the idea of celebrating the successes. I think it's something that maybe as kind of culturally, the British, we don't particularly do very well. We're kind of predisposed to not toot our own horn and celebrate when we do things well. But actually, I think we all need that now and again. Just that little reminder that actually today I smashed it. And you're right, kind of take the pandemic out of the equation. On an average day in most businesses, people don't have the time or don't make the time to kind of to tell you when you've done something really well, or just, wow, that was a really great job, thanks very much. That's all it takes. But people get caught up in their own world and their own tasks, and that's understandable. But so us taking our own responsibility for saying, actually, you know what, that was all right today, that was good, I enjoyed that.
Yeah, exactly. And feel bold about doing that, because it's interesting that the types of people that go into hospitality, I'm going to generalize slightly, but the types of people that go into the service side tend to be the people who want to give other people a nice experience and be supportive, and therefore they tend to be the less confident people as inwardly, because it's all about everybody else, it's all about making everybody else feel really good. So those are the people that psychologically are going to feel most in need of the feedback, but least likely to get it, because of all the reasons you've just said. So you sort of have to do it for yourself, or you're just not going to get that fix. I mean, it'd be great if there was time for everybody to give everybody loads of positive feedback. And, if you've got systems in place and digital stuff to do that, great, that helps. But in the main, people just don't do that sort of stuff. So stop relying on waiting for everybody to tell you it's great, and start telling yourself, because it's true, you're great, got to believe it.
And I think the next evolution of that is kind of understanding what it feels for you when you tell yourself that that's gone well and that's been good, and then thinking, right, okay, well, how's that going to feel for somebody else when I tell them that they've done the same, that they've done well, and then just start to pay it forward. And then you really do start to build and foster a culture of kind of feedback, which is incredibly useful to us all, but one where we just take the time to be kind to each other and just recognize when somebody's done a good job. All of the digital stuff is useful, but there's nothing quite as nice as a pat on the back or a shaking hand just to say, you absolutely smashed that today.
I really like the way you did that. Oh, really? Yeah, it was great. Oh, thanks. That'll probably make your week. It's a few words, and the peer-to-peer feedback is hugely important, and it costs nothing. So I think if everybody started doing that from now, just don't overdo it, because it becomes,
Don't be weird is what you're telling me, Jane, isn't it?
Don't be weird. But, keep it real. Don't reward people for turning up on time. But, do say to people, oh, I like that, and that was good, and you did a great job, and that looks amazing. And it would really pay forward for everybody. It's so good.
It makes a world of difference. I as an operator, it used to be my last job of the day would be a lap of my building. And it has to be genuine. As you say, it can't just be, yeah, you did a good job today. Something specific, something, make a specific point around something where they've done absolutely, you've really delivered there. Otherwise, it does just feel disingenuous. And what I would say, I guess, is as you are doing that for other people, your own confidence starts to build up, because you get that sense of positivity and that kind of that energy that comes back from the person you've just shared that with. It's just, things just start to bubble quite beautifully, don't they?
Yeah, it's true. And, don't forget the leaders. I mean, I do this quite a lot with leaders, because everybody expects the leaders to do it, and then nobody does it to them. And, there have been some amazing, people in this industry during the past few months who have really pulled it out of the bag, and I've said to those people, you did an amazing job there. And they're like, really, no one ever says that to me. And it's like, yeah, you did, you know. So you can do it upwards as well. Just be careful you don't make it sound, you know, patronizing or weird, but you know,
keep it genuine. That's kind of the deal, isn't it?
You know, it would be so nice if someone went to the general manager and said, do you know, you might not need to hear this, but I really admire the way you dealt with that, and it's really inspired me. And they might just look at you and go off, but in here they'd be like, yay, that was
well
good.
again, so when you said that, I was like, oh, I love this. When I remember being a GM, and we had a crazy lunch, and it was supposed to be a quiet lunch, so we were built for a quiet lunch, but it went off it. And I remember I was doing 3 different jobs at one point, and you just do what you do because you've got to get through and you've got to support your team. And I remember one of my team leaders came to me at the end of the lunch session. She said, I love the way you did that. I really appreciate the fact that you got in and you took control and you were doing those 3. And I was like, I don't remember the last time somebody thanked me as a GM for the effort that I've put in.
Exactly. It is a bit thankless and it's a bit lonely at the top, you know. So,
well, if you think that was 14 years ago now that she did that, and it still sits there with me. And I still, the way I felt at the time, I have that right there.
Yeah. And you know, it's funny this, you know, you might not always remember the words, but you'll always remember the way it makes you feel. And that's what you've got to realize when you know, in a good sense, but also delivering harsh words. People never forget that feeling. So just, yeah, empathy again, I guess. And support, you know, just supporting each other. This is an interesting time because there are loads of silver linings that have come out of the horrendous last few months. And some of it is the way that people have come together and supported one another and, you know, really pulled it out the bag and supported the NHS and supported the world. You know, there's been a lot of amazing stuff. Mm-hmm. And we shouldn't lose hold of that. You know, we're not going to go back to the way it was before. So it's really important to think about the positive things and the way, for instance, we've supported each other and keep on doing that. So I keep saying to people, it doesn't cost anything. You know, sometimes maybe it's a bit of time. Usually it's not anything. You're there anyway. So just make it a bit positive.
Just do it.
You know? It's not that
love
hard,
it.
is it?
Absolutely love that. Works for me in a big way. There's no getting around it. So maybe I'm in this position now where we've ticked along and I'm trying to kind of do my job, but things are a little bit challenging and I'm having some difficulties. Where should I be looking to get some support when those difficult situations arise?
Well, I think, first of all, sit and think about what your options are and whether there's anything you can do, because it's very easy, especially if you're not feeling very confident and you know, you're not looking after yourself and all the rest of it, to run to someone for the answer. And because they're busy, it's probably easier for them to just tell you. But actually, that's not growing your resilience, your confidence. So if you can, you know, if there's something that you need some support around, just think about first whether there's anything you can do to make it better. And if there really isn't, I mean, don't wait for weeks before you go and get some support, but have a look at depends what kind of support you want. But I mean, it might be a chat with your manager, it might be a chat with a colleague, it might be a chat with a family member or a friend. It might be that you've got an employee assistance program. You know, Hospitality Action have an excellent EAP that your company may offer. If you're out of work at the moment, you obviously don't have that, but there are lots of things on the Umbrella website and via CareerScope, etc., where you can get support. So I think, you know, there's so much out there. Don't think, oh my goodness, it's not for me, because it's exactly for you. It's for whoever it is that needs the support, really. But just see if there's an immediate fix around you or within first, and then, you know, then go for it. Go and Google support for hospitality person out of work. I guarantee you'll get lots of hits.
Yeah, it's definitely there. And I think Steve Rocky was saying that when you're taken on in the job, there's a whole lot of people around you who are invested in your success. They're not invested in your failure.
Absolutely.
So look for the help. Put your hand out every now and again and be comfortable to do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Amazing. Some really good stuff in there, Jane. Really good stuff. Right. Thank you very much for that. Absolutely amazing.
Pleasure.
Super stuff. See you again.
See you soon.